Flint West reporting from the monetary frontier. You can hear the creak of the system if you listen close enough. The 60-40 portfolio. Dead. U.S. Treasuries? No longer the risk-free ride they once were. Long yields are screaming north of 5%, and investors ain't biting like they used to. The bond market, once the crown jewel of American fiscal credibility, is now a limping warhorse, pulling a wagon load of IOUs and broken promises. But what if there were a way to flip the script, to turn treasuries from dead weight into a hot-ticket item in the new global monetary order? Enter the Bit Bond. Bit Bonds, how the U.S. can lasso Bitcoin and save its broken debt machine. The problem, a bleeding treasury and fading trust. Let's not sugarcoat it. The U.S. needs to sell boatloads of long-term debt to fund its obligations. But buyers are walking away. Why? Because treasuries are no longer perceived as risk-free. Because inflation is eating yield alive. Because the rest of the world is slowly diversifying away from the dollar. And because owning U.S. debt increasingly feels like picking up nickels in front of a fiscal steamroller. Wall Street can pretend that this is fine. It's not. The pitch: Treasury bonds with a Bitcoin backbone. A Bit Bond is a U.S. Treasury security fused with a slice of Bitcoin. It works like this. You buy a Treasury bond. 99% goes to fund the usual obligations. 1% goes to purchase Bitcoin, held on your behalf, off balance sheet. At maturity, you get your USD principal and interest, plus that sweet sliver of Bitcoin. It's a blend of old world security with new world scarcity. Gold 2.0 meets IOU 1.0. And here's the kicker. The U.S. doesn't spend a dime of taxpayer money to do it. Budget neutral and bulletproof. Under the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve SBR, the Treasury can acquire BTC as long as it's budget neutral. No fresh debt, no taxpayer burden. And guess what? This model checks every box. The Bitcoin is bought with the buyer's own funds. No BTC is taken from the government's hoard. If there's no new buyer, there's no new bond and no new Bitcoin. Bitcoin custody is isolated, traceable, and doesn't touch SBR holdings, which are locked for 20 years anyway. It's not just compliant, it's elegant. Why not just buy Bitcoin? Here's why this is smarter. Investors love Bitcoin, but they also love yield, safety, and regulatory clarity. Bit bonds provide sharp, predictable yield plus Bitcoin exposure. They're legally sanctioned, institution-friendly, and custodially sound. They protect against volatility while offering upside optionality. And they open the door for pensions, insurers, and sovereign wealth funds to get off-zero Bitcoin without rewriting their charters. This is Bitcoin with a suit and tie and a badge that says Made in America. Why the U.S. must go first. The U.S. can't afford to watch from the sidelines. Other nations are already sniffing around Bitcoin as sovereign reserve collateral. But if Washington moves first, issues the world's first Bitcoin-backed sovereign bond, it can re-anchor global capital flows back to U.S. treasuries, set the gold standard for Bitcoin-backed debt instruments, co-opt Bitcoin instead of letting it erode dollar dominance. Send a signal to the world. The U.S. doesn't fear the future. It mints it. Conclusion: saddle the scarcity, rein in the future. Bit bonds don't just fix a demand problem. They bridge eras. They inject digital scarcity into a bloated fiat system. They give investors what they're screaming for: hard money with structure. And most of all, they give the U.S. a fighting chance to turn its biggest existential threat into its greatest financial innovation. The train's leaving. You want to be on it or under it? This is Flint West, reporting from the edge of the monetary frontier. And I just showed you the rope. Now let's see who's got the grit to pull.